Welcome back to Ballymore, and as we welcome viewers in Canberra, it's time for the main course of this afternoon's menu of Super Saturday, the second Bledisloe Cup test between Australia and the All Blacks. And after losing the first test in Sydney a couple of weeks ago, the Wallabies have to win this afternoon to keep the best-of-3 Bledisloe series alive, and they're not lacking any support here from a jam-packed Ballymore ground. More than 20,000 people packed in to see if the senior Wallabies can do what the under-21s have done, which is to come back from a 16-6 half-time deficit to win 24-19. So a magnificent game in prospect, and here to describe all the action is your commentator, Gordon Bray.
Thanks very much, Charles, and yes, it really is a special scene here at Ballymore at the moment. We've never seen anything like this, but the Wallabies must defy history if they're to overcome this New Zealand side. They've never beaten the All Blacks at Ballymore in a test match. Indeed, the only win was way back in 1929. The Australians now out on the field, and alongside me, as usual, is Chris Handy, and there's Jeff Miller, who's come back into this side after recovering from an injured eye. The All Blacks shortly to come out onto Ballymore, but this is the biggest crowd we've seen at Ballymore. Wayne Shelford and Grant Fox, the two men out, leading this crack outfit. Okay, well, 4 changes to the first test side. 2 forced by injury. In the backs, Lloyd Walker makes his debut at 5'8". James Grant displaces Gary Ella. In the pack, a first test cap also for Tim Gavin at number 8, and Jeff Miller returns after missing the first test. Simon Poitevin plays his 49th test match. Skipper Nick Farr-Jones his 27th. The only change to New Zealand's winning team is the return of the devout Christian Michael Nico Jones, who doesn't play on Sundays. Rated the outstanding player of the World Cup, his recall was a formality. Several players have overcome niggling injuries: John Schuster, Terry Wright, Allen and Gary Wetton, as well as Jones. This side rated New Zealand's best ever. So we just heard the national anthem, God Defend New Zealand. And now the Australian anthem. Yes, it certainly is a big moment for Tim Gavin. He has his supporters in this jam-packed arena. And Australia having to overcome a winning sequence in test matches by New Zealand of 12 in a row. And now, as is usual on tour, it's Wayne Shelford to lead the Harker. Chris Handy.
Yes, Gordon, well, you can imagine the task facing the Australians today, and here the Harker in front of them, for looking for all the world like 15 mongrel dogs at a butchery window. Such is the looks on the faces of these All Blacks. Fantastic as they go through this traditional preparation for test matches, which brings this great crowd here at Ballymore alive. I've been watching test matches here at this ground since 1967 and have not seen the scenes that we've seen here today. The crowd is the biggest, and it's the most electric we've seen, chanting Waltzing Matilda and all the other favourites well before the game started.
And there's the man in the middle, all the way from Scotland, Brian Anderson. So the ground in superb condition. There was rain earlier in the week. There's scarcely any breeze here. And the Australians very fired up. They were wounded in the first international at Concord. And interestingly, in every series in the 80s, the Bledisloe Cup series, it's always gone down to a third and deciding test in 80, 82, 84 and 86. 39-year-old Brian Anderson, he handles public relations with the Bank of Scotland in Edinburgh, and the second international at Ballymore underway, and Dean's immediately clearing to rights, and a very high tackle there by Lloyd Walker, who's being called out in his first test match, and he's certainly been warned after that one.
Well, this tackle was sure high. He went back inside Lloyd Walker, who made little attempt to go low. Such as the nerves electric the start of the game.
So Nick Farr-Jones there, the Australian captain, just organising his troops, but not a good start for Australia. You recall in the first test, New Zealand piling on 14 points in the first 11 minutes, and now a chance for Grant Fox, and right still in the hands of the New Zealand physio Dave Abercrombie.
Yes, Gordon, today's game is all about possession, and Australia's pre-game selections and their tactics are all based on attack, and attack they must. They must do it through their forwards, they must do it through their backs, but they've got to do it with the ball in their hands, running at the All Blacks. That's the weakness that's been exposed at any time. There has been weakness in this great All Black side, and Australia must do it without those mistakes which peppered the first test match, first 15 minutes.
So this man, Grant Fox, who's been described as rugby's Jeff Boycott, prolific, unspectacular, but a skilled tradesman, 45 metres out from goal. He kicked his last 6 in succession here at Ballymore last week against Queensland. He averages 17 points in test matches. Just 1.5 minutes now elapsed first half, and Fox with a golden opportunity. The ground really humming. He's pushed it. Campese having a run and not finding touch. This is right again. He follows. Bad mistake there by Australia. Leads underneath.
Well, great attack is bred of even better defence. And there, David Campese attempting to start this game up for the Australians early, but they must find touch. 2 errors, losing that kick-off, allowing the penalty, and that one not putting the ball into touch has created more pressure for the Australian forwards early in the game.
The nightmare of Concord haunting the Australians in the early stages. Goal line away to the right. Jones at the back with Miller. Australia scramble it back. Lloyd Walker cleared it brilliantly to Leeds, and somehow they get out of trouble. But it was a close thing.
Good play by Australia. They rarely lose the ball in the 22s in attack and defence, New Zealand, when putting the ball into line-out. It's been a great feature of their game, and Miller, not a noted back of the line-out jumper, but hanging on like a terrier dog today in front of Jones, strong in the air.
So Jones wearing number 7. So is his opposite number, Jeffrey Miller. Jones knocking on there. And yes, surprisingly, Jeff Miller is 5 centimetres taller than Jones, who's regarded as a skillful line-out jumper. So Australia absorbing early pressure so far. 3 minutes gone.
Referee Brian Anderson trying to get a few things sorted out in the front row early today.
New Zealand will it.
Good scrum by Australia. It's packed very low. New Zealand have done a lot of work this week on this aspect of their game. Put a lot of pressure on Tommy Lawton, nearly not able to hook for the ball. This is early pressure on Australia, unsettling on your own put in.
There's a bit of scrum from the Australians. Leeds. He wasn't originally in the side. Campese selected at fullback, but then with Michael Liner's injury, Leeds back in at fullback, and Campese to the wing, with Grant moving to outside centre.
And I think even by the admission of All Black coach Alec Wiley and a number of their major players, the Australian team looking with a stronger look to it, with Leeds at fullback and Campese back on the wing.
New Zealand cleaning Australia out in the first test lineouts. And the ball not thrown in straight. So just a few little uncharacteristic errors from New Zealand in the early stages. It's all been down in Australia's half. Mark Harthill and Brian Anderson penalising New Zealand against Richard Lowe, and also the hooker. Keep the scrum up, he says.
Well, that's Brian Anderson from Scotland saying of Richard Lowe, number 3, his elbow pointing towards the ground, and saying that that's a dangerous move which may collapse the scrum. Therefore, keep your elbow up or I'll penalise you some more.
So Australia in New Zealand's half for the first time. 5 minutes gone. No score, but some worrying moments early in the piece for the men in goal. Tim Gavin, number 8, second from the back. Cutler got 2 hands to it. Walker to Cook. Coming off the side. This is Terry Wright. And a good low tackle there by big Mark Harthill.
And obviously they've taken the pressure off Lloyd Walker in the kicking role and given Michael Liner a bit of a Michael Cook, I'm sorry, a role there, but Australia need to run this ball at the All Blacks. That's the way to do it.
Australia winning the first 2 lineouts. It's a good one for Gary Wetton. Fox's kick to Leeds. Schuster coming through. We saw a good confrontation which resulted in a try for New Zealand in the first test, and Australia gets the ruck ball. Far Jones, look at this. Walker back to Poitevin. Strong play from Australia. Miller caught by Shelford. Good ruck ball for the Australians. Poitevin again, running hard and straight. Walker has it. Goes himself, they're holding off him. Miller supports. And that man coming in offside. Penalty to Australia. Clearly offside there, New Zealand.
Wayne Shelford standing in front of the tackle player, not bound, unable to play the ball. Here it comes, and Australia doing what we said they needed to, running the ball, maintaining possession. There, Miller, as he'd done 2 times previously, forming the link, and Shelford standing right offside and taken out and summarily dealt with by Damien Frawley.
Well, there's been some pretty hurtful tackles so far by the Australian forwards. They certainly mean business here this afternoon, and New Zealand just looking unsettled in the early stages after Australia absorbed their pressure. A series of ruck wins. Australia running hard at the New Zealanders and testing their defence.
I think it's very important the way that the Australians have fallen with the ball and have won all the ball so far that they've taken into that ruck and maul, which is a Kiwi strong point.
So John Moulton and Brad Burke, and they're the 2 men who've looked after the fortunes of this Australian team in '88, Tempo and Dwyer. Well, normally you'd say this would be a straightforward penalty kick for Australia if Liner was in the driver's seat. He's not. Andrew Leeds, not really a specialist kicker. He's out in front of the posts, and he's really feeling the pressure. He's got it. Big sigh of relief from the Australian supporters. Andrew Leeds kicked 3 penalty goals in the Bledisloe Cup at Concord last year against New Zealand.
And that's the way to handle the pressure. Slow and easy, stroke the ball beautifully. And that's a great lift for the Australian forward pack, who've got a big task in front of them today. So
we've had nearly 10 minutes of play, and 3-0 up is a big difference from 14-0 down at about this time in the first test.
Yes, too true. 10 minutes gone. There was at least 10 points on the board at that stage. First test, and absorb it they must.
Australia taking good ball through Poiterman. Here's Far Jones again. Miller setting it back to him. Here comes Ian Williams through on Gallagher. Well taken by the New Zealand fullback, and equally good defence.
A great play from the Australian forwards that time. The facet of their play, which has been a little lax in the last games that they've played, has been their ability to be strong under the kickoff. That time it was beautiful ball delivered to Nick Far Jones.
Here's Gavin at the back. Far Jones went without it. And Shelford trying to reef the ball away from his rival skipper.
First test with New Zealand, scrums put in.
That's the 10-metre line, New Zealand's half. Good Australian scrum. They've spoiled. Shelford's in trouble. Australia try to ruck it back. Not successful. Fox relieves pressure. Wright coming through on Leeds. Ian Williams trying to maul the ball. And here they can go now, Australia. Lloyd Walker. Kick over halfway. And here comes Campese. Very weak attempt to tackle. He tried to push him into touch and almost gave Gallagher a clear passage.
Although it's difficult to run at full pace and then tackle, David Campese is the best winger in Australia. And that's something that he should have in his kit bag, is the ability to run hard, balance, and make the tackle that counts.
Pearce got the tap. Here's Schuster. He juggled. Cook round his ankles. Australia rucking hard again. They have it. Far Jones finds space and gets the bounce.
And there we have the sort of work needed from the Australian forwards today to win some ball taken in by New Zealand. Schuster receiving the ball under pressure, and Australia got to him early and secured that possession.
Australia's won 4 rucks and mauls to New Zealand's 1. Just outside the 22. Far Jones straightens. Miller. Again a good development here. Walker. Through now for Williams. And again the ball beats everyone over the touchline.
Good play by the Australians, running it at the black jumpers. And Lloyd Walker, as he's done all year so far, and deserves his selection, that trait of his, nicely balanced, runs to the man and squeeze the ball through the gap along the ground.
Well, you don't stop for a man doing his shoelaces. Cutler. To Walker again. Cook straightens, well caught. Australia again looking for the ruck ball. And the scrum going down right in front of the goalposts. It's been pretty impressive stuff from the Australian forwards.
New Zealand haven't been allowed to gain that composure and that poise that they've shown early in the other games that they've played so far on tour. But they're a great side. And in a very defensive situation, they're well organised, and they'll be tested here.
Far Jones. Williams inside. Williams! Great try!
Fantastic work by the Australians. Firstly, through their scrum, that ball was needed, and it was needed quickly. And they used Williams coming back inside. We'll pick it up on the thing. Shelford does his job here. He goes very wide, and the 2 men outside completely flat-footed. No communication there in that defensive pattern of New Zealand. And what a great shot from here on top. You'll see the clear scrum win. Beautiful control. Gavin at the back, the perfectly timed pass. And Williams hitting the line and hitting it hard. Great try, Australia. Beautiful work here by Tim Gavin. Look at the balance. Look at the run. And Far Jones, the consummate ball carrier. And Williams, the consummate finisher.
So now Leeds outside the 22. Ian Williams makes it 6 tries from 6 tests. He scored Australia's only try in the first international. What a start it's been by Australia. You could almost hear a pin drop. Good strike. That's just missing. 15 minutes of play gone, first half. A try to Williams, 1 penalty to Andrew Leeds.
Well, fantastic crowd scenes here. Look at that pan of the camera. Absolutely chock-a-block. Standing room only, and they're on top of the toilets on the far side of the field. They're everywhere.
Jones collared in the tackle by Gavin. It was a beauty. Here's Shelford having a go. Poitevin underneath. The first time tackling's been good so far from the Australians. Fox and Schuster. The ball peppering back to Leeds. Schuster arrives and Leeds is carried over. 5-metre scrum.
Great kick by Grant Fox, and even better foraging by John Schuster, who's shown his great ability to go forward for the ball, but good support by Leeds and Tim Gavin. Dangerous situation for Australia here. The All Blacks will try and contain the ball in the scrum and prove the power. They'll settle, they'll balance, and they'll give that second shove, and it'll be Shelford who'll use the ball.
Australia has absorbed the pressure so far, but this is a crucial scrum. New Zealand masters in this situation.
This is a true test for Australia. If they can withstand this, they've got great chances of winning this game.
It's good scrum ball for New Zealand. This is Fox. He was well taken by Far Jones. A desperate tackle. Jones. It's a try. Momentum carried him over. Michael Jones back in the test team. His first big game on tour, and he makes an immediate impact.
Well, Australia had done all the hard work. The scrum had worked well, and here Fox's ankle tapped by Far Jones, I think it is. He doesn't pull him down and ground him immediately, and Jones there in support, right there. Look at the speed of this man. Gavin was there, he took it up, but he goes over in the tackle of Miller, and I would say front on, a double movement, but referee Anderson covered from the ball.
Yes, well, Australia can't be worried about double movements. They've got to maintain that continuity on the scoreboard. But certainly it looked that way. And that's the greatness of this New Zealand team, their ability to hit back after a setback. 1 point the difference. 1 try apiece. And remember, no side in the last 2 years has managed to score more than 1 try against New Zealand.
This ball goes wide, and Australia had done the hard work. They had the men there in numbers, and it's that tackle there was crucial. He was not held, therefore he could let the ball go. And Jones, powered, running straight. He hits the ball, grounds here before the line. He lifts it up and puts it over. It's a double movement, but Brian Anderson unsided.
Nick Farr-Jones not able to keep the ball in play. 30 metres out from the goal line. And that was a beautiful kick from down inside the 22. Nearly halfway through the first term. Cutler doing it well. Walker. Lovely dummy to Miller. Great play from Australia. Williams. He's given Terry Wright a torrid time in the first test.
Well, they call Lloyd Walker cumbersome, but there he's showing all the skills that truly to him this year have been very good. He took the ball up, he steadied, he held the ball back as he has that clever ability to do, and picked up the back row of Miller.
Missed tackles by Schuster and also Wayne Shelford. The ball well won again by Wetton at the front. Campese back here with Leeds. Midway, 22 and halfway. Australia leading by 7 points to 6. And an injury problem now for New Zealand. It's Joe Stanley, known as Bullet to his teammates. He's been down quite a few times on tour.
It's been a fantastic campaigner for them, doing a lot of the donkey work, the hard work up the middle. He's got a skillful pair of hands. Been a great campaigner for them. Michael Cook, his inside centre opposite, has been also troubled during the week with a thigh injury. He didn't train as heavily as one might have thought this week.
Yes, well, Cook is certainly feeling that thigh. It seems to be particularly worrying him in the groin. And messages going back to the Australian reserves bench. Greg Craig, the physio, running up to see Bob Dwyer, and Stephen James is coming down. Jones beautifully at the back. Miller scavenges. Australia gets the ruck ball. Walker again. Campese follows. Campese! David Campese! Ankle tapped. Almost through. And Australia rucking over the top. Dangerous play. Alan Wetton feels his head to see if it's still there.
Great commitment by Australia. This ball came forward off Campese's hands, I believe, but he took it up hard. And look at the commitment of the Australian forward pack. Though they've gone over the top and it's illegal, as the ball goes to ground here they go in, they're tripped, they go in over. Still John Gallagher lies there, and a penalty to All Blacks.
Alan Wetton still feeling his ear, just making sure it's in one piece. And a sad moment now for Michael Cook, who's leaving the field with that groin injury. Stephen James, who played in the Bledisloe Cup match against New Zealand at Concord last year, to come on. Leeds secure with Poitevin and Gavin. Australia smuggling the ball back here. Far Jones to Campese. Kicking away from Gallagher. He wants the bounce, and look at it go. James Grant coming through on Gallagher, who had very little angle.
Great work from James Grant, the Kiama flyer. He had a slow start to his test career against England, but this is the game he's pumped up for, and I'm sure he's up to the task.
Poitevin. Stephen James into 5'8" now. So that's really disrupted the Australian back line. New Zealand in control, just inside their 22. Tommy Lawton with the throw, 30 metres out. Australia leading 7-6. And again, some good sweeping. Referee says it's okay. Jones through the tackle of Far Jones. Good ball here for New Zealand. Stanley to Gallagher. Well tackled, thumping tackle there by James Grant. Schuster's caught. Stephen James, McIntyre's there. Poitevin has it for Australia. And New Zealand player Shelford looked to be close to offside. He got away with it. Here's Campese. That's good play by Australia. Gallagher way out of position, and that kick going down towards the goal line. Williams. Gallagher gets a nice reply in to Campese again. To Leeds. And it's aerial ping-pong at the moment. Grant Fox. The steadier. Midway, 22 and halfway. New Zealand territory.
I'd say 40 love Australia's serve. And another All Black down now, just doing up his boot, Michael Jones in the centre of the field.
Line out 7-4 to Australia. There's much more organisation and composure about this Australian line-out. Miller to Far Jones. James. Grant. Through. Here's Walker to Campese. Lovely pass, and Williams couldn't hold. It's Stephen James couldn't hold on.
Well, Australia looked brilliant when they had the ball in their hands, and hopefully the change to Stephen James at 5'8" isn't going to mean the return to a kicking game. Lloyd Walker started it well, and here it comes. Campese stands up Kerwin and throws the pass, but James looking ahead rather than at the ball, unable to handle.
Well, Stephen James can be forgiven for some test match nerves. He wasn't expecting to be out there. And there's the Bledisloe Cup. And I believe it holds 26 jugs, Chris. There's going to be some partying.
I've had some part of all 26s on its stages, Gordon, too. A fantastic trophy.
So Wayne Shelford in the hands of Dave Abercrombie. But the territorial advantage has been all Australia in the first 25 minutes. Alex Griswiley and some of the New Zealand reserves. So we're just on Australia's side of halfway for the line-out, which will be the 13th of the game. Australia taking the line-outs by a 2-1 ratio at the moment. Cutler reigning supreme. Poitevin. Murray Pearce, a real bear hug tackle. Poitevin relishing the early exchanges. Campese again, angling across field. Inside the 22.
Well, that's what the Australian front row want to see when they pull their head up after a well-won ruck. That ball sailing up in front of them and going into touch. And if Australia are going to kick today, the ball has either got to go into touch or through the hands.
.22-metre line. Cutler again. Walker. Back to James. Miller's there, so is Poitevin, and a big drive from the Australians.
This is a critical ball to win for Australia.
Well, there's been a very positive approach from the Australians back and forward. They've really done their homework from the first test.
You're right, Gordon. That is the difference this time. If they're not winning the ruck, they're holding on and driving forward, Australia, to get the put into the scrum.
Walker takes it well to James. Williams picks up brilliantly. Terry Wright hangs on. 15 minutes before half-time. New Zealand hasn't been allowed to get its continuity going either. They've been thwarted by some punishing Australian defence. Very hot conditions here at Ballymore. Better effort from New Zealand. And not in straight. Well, the first test lineouts were a dockside brawl, as Dave Brockhoff would say, but Mr. Anderson really paying close attention. Bar Jones hoisting now for Williams. Pressure on Gallagher. 5 metres out. Australia there in numbers. Walker. Lovely pass to Grant. He's there! James Grant from Orange City has scored Australia's second try. No side has done that to New Zealand on tour, and no side has done that to New Zealand in the last 2 years.
Well, this is great stuff by Australia, all set up by some fantastic ball, by that scrum platform, and by the involvement of these 8 men, all in behind each other. You could see the black heads sticking up. The Australians drove, the ball was beautiful, and Grant showed Australia that he had the pace to score the try.
Well, James Grant has gone straight through or around Joe Stanley twice now to make incisive breaks. Australia by 5. Australia by 7. Well, you'd almost have to call in the stewards. This has been a real form reversal.
It certainly has been. It's been done in the most basic way, keeping the balls in the hand and plenty of enthusiasm. And Bob Dwyer's got to be congratulated for preparing this side. Look at this ball in the air. It was pressure from everywhere. And it was Gavin there snaffling the ball on the ground. Referee Anderson watching it closely for the knock-on. And Walker, poise and balance. And look at the power and pace of this man. Close to the line, unstoppable.
Australia 13-6. Good ball here for Deans to Fox. And his hurried kick across to Campisi. Takes it on his fingertips. And replies with interest.
And David Campisi, he had a lot to prove today. He's doing it easy. Not by how people would normally expect him with his mercurial running, but a couple of touch finders have really helped his forward pack. And I think that's the great contribution he's making today. He's helping his forwards play their game a lot better.
8 metres into New Zealand's half. Australia leading 9-4 in the lineouts. And they snaffle this one. Geez, there's a lot of continuity in the rucks and mauls. And Australia penalised.
Unnecessary. Australia had won a ball against the odds, won by New Zealand, and I think Tim Gavin holding back a player, while Stephen James had the situation under control.
Fox keeps the ball in play, leads across. Inside his 22. Australian jerseys there in numbers, and they're mauling it back. Lloyd Walker. Well, he's enjoying his first test. He's had a big hand in the 2 tries.
And it's the Australians showing the poise and the composure. That's the reversal that we've seen. The All Blacks changed pattern to put that ball high. They'd normally have gone down the line, but they're a little rattled, and they're trying to get their pace picked up and going. And Australia just refusing to buckle under.
Ten-metre line, New Zealand's half. Australia 13-6. Cutler again. Walker straightening. Australians ruck it back. Stephen James, clever kick up the touchline. Grant again through on Gallagher. And a late tackle. Well, we've seen a couple of silly penalties given away by the Australians.
That unnecessary from James Grant. Didn't have to follow through. Gallagher was clearing. And it's brought the kick upfield. If that ball had have stayed infield further, the penalty would have been further upfield. Very punishing retribution for that sin by James Grant. A lot of territory given up.
Yes, the penalty awarded 15 metres in from where it touched the touchline. And offside Gary Wetton. He knows it too.
And I think it's the skill of Gary Wetton and the inability of some of the referees we've seen to see that subtlety. Coming across the line in the action of jumping and then playing the ball on Australia's side of the line out.
Up to the 22. So for Australia, Ian Williams and James Grant scoring tries in the 14th and 28th minutes. Leeds 1 conversion and 1 penalty. Michael Jones a try for New Zealand. In the 17th minute, converted by Fox. The crowd calling gold. That's only New Zealand's 5th line-out win, but it's all under pressure. Harthill sweeping the prop forward, runs into Wetton. New Zealand have it. Fox. Clever play from him.
Mark Harthill on the ground still after that, caught awkwardly in the tackle by Wetton and Steve McDowell. And I think he's holding a knee or a calf there, and I don't like the look of it. He's not even been able to lift it up to roll over straight.
Well, Harthill's had a tremendous game in the early stages. He's been in everything. And this would be yet another crippling blow.
Here he comes. He picks up the ball like a good prop forward, and he gets rolled over in this tackle there as Steve McDowell and Gary Wetton crush him to the ground. He hasn't moved, and we can hear on the referees, Mike, that he can't move his knee. And it's rung Robbie Lawton, the reserve prop number 20, onto the sideline to warm up. All down that lateral side of his left knee.
So the New Zealand forwards pacing around impatiently. In their last 3 test matches, the All Blacks have scored 138 points, averaging 46 per test. Unbeaten on tour so far, with 8 wins, 256 points for to 45 against. Their line, until this test, crossed only 4 times. Harthill's going to battle on here. He said, give me a couple of minutes, I'll see how I go. Cutler doing it well to Walker. The pass was behind him. Here's James. And the bounce of the ball going Australia's way in the first half. Something that didn't happen at Concord.
Good constructive kicking from Australia. They realise that Gallagher is a danger man. Good and steady in defence. And they're working the ball wide of him at every opportunity. Plus, it's going into touch when it bounces. And that's the way to do it.
Repeating that the Australian under-21 side came from 16-6 down at half-time to beat New Zealand under-21s by 24-19. Miller scurries the ball back. All these passes going well behind the 5'8", and James cleaning up brilliantly. He's been around for a long time, Stephen James. Hasn't had the best of treatment from selectors, but he's been an inspiration so far. Australia stalking up towards the goal line, just 10 metres out. Gavin at the back to Far Jones. McIntyre's there. Miller at halfback. Shelford coming through on Australia's side. Poitevin at halfback. James to Walker to Poitevin. New Zealand try to hold it. Here they go. James, numbers for Australia. They couldn't get the pass out to Leeds. Williams there. And Australia loses a head, but it could have been another try.
Good interpretation of the advantage by referee Brian Anderson that time. The ball knocked forward or lost forward by Ian Williams. You'll see it when it comes wide. They had real composure. And this pass goes inside to Williams when he picks it up here. And as he gets spun round, loses it forward.
Far Jones over the advantage line. Miller. Inspirational game from him. Picked up by Poitevin again. James, Walker. Quick hands here to Grant. The cutout probably was wanted that time. New Zealand come away with it to right, and Gallagher outside. And the ball going out on the full.
And such is the pressure from this Australian pack. With Terry Wright pushing that ball into touch on the full. He had time, but inside came James in support, and he knew he had to do something with it.
Well, I spoke to Bob Dwyer from Sydney, Chris, on Thursday night as John Schuster has some treatment, and he said, we really believe we can beat New Zealand. We're convinced someone's going to beat them very shortly, so why shouldn't it be us this Saturday?
Yeah, look, I agree with you, Gordon, although you had to look before the game at the statistics, and the statistics said it just was going to be tough. Australia have had a very interrupted preparation for the game this week, what with sickness and injuries to Michael Liner and also to Julian Gardner. But as things happen, they happen for the best, and it's how you create it and how you do it on the field in the 80 minutes you have available. We can all talk about it beforehand and after, but if you don't do it out there, there's no chance. And Australian, particularly in the forwards, are doing it today. They're holding it in their hands.
Michael Cook in the foreground and Michael Liner on the right, who cried off before the game. Cutler with two hands. Far Jones, again, brilliant clearance. Grant, Campese, away from Kerwin. And Gallagher puts it back over halfway. Well, it was a points or a knockout victory in the first test between Kerwin and Campese. But Campo has staggered the champ in this second international.
Good play here by Australia. The ball went through the hands, and it wasn't until Campese tried to kick ahead that the ball went astray, going straight into the hands of Gallagher.
Very close to half-time. Australia by 7. It's 13-6. Bruce Deans went without it. The ball went back. Deans recovers to Fox. Schuster crunched by the defence. James and Walker. But he went ahead. Stanley there now. New Zealand looking much better here. Wright follows. Wright and Williams leads. Now Williams back there. He's going to have a run. Straight ahead. Ian Williams. Only one man in front. Shelford. He's still going. Amazing effort there by Williams, and now he tackles on the goal line. Sensational. Australia go. Oh, they've blown a try. Knocked on by the prop forward, I think it was.
A certain try blown by Australia, and what fantastic play, firstly by Andrew Leeds, who they thought wasn't good enough to put in this side, and then by that man Ian Williams. Held onto the ball and ran it down the line. And I think it was Hartill who was trailing, as all good prop forwards should, when that ball came from the breakdown quickly. And look at this. This will go down as one of the inspirational runs that you will see for Australia today. Williams saw the gaps, even to the point when he comes to the big fellow on the left-hand touch here, Shelford. He takes him on. Shelford goes high. Urged on by Far Jones, and now he's already run the full distance. He still supports and pressures the ball, and look how well this ball's won by Australia here. Williams, also then it's Hartill there at the top, and this ball comes so quickly for Australia. It runs into a player and is bumped and knocked on. It's Miller.
New Zealand scramble the ball away from behind their goal line. They haven't found touch. Wright coming through on Leeds. He runs round, has a spot for field goal. Just wide. Mr. Anderson had a very close look at that one.
It came off the boot beautifully. And when you're going well like Leeds is at the moment, why not have the shot for field goal? 1 minute to half-time. They must maintain or extend this lead, Australia, because this is truly a great All Black side. But they've been given a lesson in the first half, and they won't like it.
Wetton came through. Nothing wrong with that. The crowd didn't like it. Shelford back to Deans, to Fox. Fox has had plenty of pressure on him. He's missed his touch a few times. Leeds now, running back at New Zealand. Ankle tapped. New Zealand side. McDowell couldn't pick up. There's the hooter. And that's half-time. The referee should blow it up. And Australia.
Well, he's here giving a penalty to Australia right on half-time because New Zealand players are that pressured that they're arguing with the referee. And we heard on the mic, he said, I will make the decisions here. Shut up, New Zealand, and gave the penalty to Australia. And it could be a very critical one.
Well, let's have a look at the statistics of the first half. And the Australian forwards have been commanding. The lineouts 15-7. The rucks and mauls 10-9. And the penalties favouring New Zealand 5-4. But that line-out turnaround has been quite staggering. It all comes down to organisation. And the Australians have really put a lot of work in training into that area, the line-out. And handsome dividends. So time is up on the clock. A penalty awarded after the hooter. This would give Australia a 10-point lead. He's got the distance. And he's got the kick. 10-point lead. And let me tell you, in the 85-year history of All Black rugby, no New Zealand side has come back from a 10-point deficit to win the game. So they now have to defy history. Australia has never beaten New Zealand here at Ballymore. What a match in the first half. It really has been special, and the Australians have been quite inspiring. Well, with me is Chris Handy. I know you're pretty excited about this match here, Chris. It's been a very polished performance.
We said earlier, Gordon, that the name of the game would all be about possession. Australia have beaten New Zealand 2-1 in the lineouts, and ruck and mauls 10-9, and therein lies the answer to the game of Australia today. They've done it with courage, they've done it with great heart, but they've done it because those great gallant 8 forwards have worked hard and got that ball for the backs to use and to run at the New Zealanders. They've had a little bounce of the ball come their way, Australia. They've been short of luck so far this season, particularly against the All Blacks, but it's coming slowly. But now their greatest test of all will come with this second half. New Zealand are fantastic. They're a great side, and if anyone can defy history, this good All Black team can do it.
Well, Andrew Slack, the former Australian captain, just walked past our commentary box. He put his thumb in the air, and Andrew's wife Caroline gave birth to Thomas Cecil during the week. So another future Australian captain there.
Seems to be catching, doesn't it? Up in New Guinea, Tony Shaw and his newly pregnant wife Judy would be watching this game amongst thousands of expatriate Kiwis, and I'm sure it's given him great delight to see Australia at this time.
Very exciting then, as we now take you to Charles Slade.
Thank you, Gordon Bray. My word, what a game, what an occasion, what an atmosphere. We're in a temporary studio here at this end of the ground on about 4 metres of scaffolding. And when the play comes down here and Australia scored those tries, the ground shook, the scaffolding shook, the studio shook, and I shook. Let's hope it can survive an epic second half. Absolutely wonderful display by Australia so far. We're just over halfway through Super Saturday, and let's just remind ourselves of what is still to come on this great afternoon. Coming up at 4:45, you can see Rugby League in New South Wales, Queensland, Northern Territory and Western Australia. That's Canterbury versus East. In Victoria, you can see the VFA game between Coburg and Port Melbourne. In Tasmania, the TFL game between Hobart and North Launceston. While in South Australia, you're going to get the highlights of 2, Woodville v Sturt and Central District versus Cornell. While in Brisbane, there'll be a replay of this extraordinary match. So Australia leading 16 points to 6 at half. half-time. Some fearsome commitment out there as we return you to Gordon Bray and Chris Handon.
Thanks very much, Charles. And the second half now just getting underway here at Ballymore. Australia scoring 2 tries to 1. Andrew Leeds performing some mighty deeds with the boots. That penalty goal from 45 metres out just before half-time. So New Zealand, can they bounce back here? They've been thoroughly outplayed in the first half, and there's strong play from Lowe. And Deans just kicking into the box. Campese waiting. John Gallagher. Poitevin pressures. Well, Bob Dwyer, stern-faced. John Bain, the chairman of the Australian selectors, in the background. But Dwyer, the man who really put his head on the chopping block with some selections in the second test team. He must be very pleased at the moment. Far Jones to James. Here they come. Gallagher with the pressure. Grant taps it back to Miller. He's been everywhere.
Miller's been fantastic.
Here they go. Walker.
He's been the link.
Walker chips through, and Wright gets the bounce. But New Zealand under heavy pressure again in the early stages.
That was the one to run at him, Lloyd. You would normally do it. Pushing that ball ahead, it was an unconvincing push ahead. He was trying to push it into space, not for the line. Hold it in your hands, Lloyd, and run it at them.
Tommy Lawton throwing into the lineouts. Steve Cutler jumping at number 4. Miller coming through again. Good ball. Far Jones. Wetton was waiting. There's no halfback. Miller goes in. Australian mauling has been superb. Tommy Lawton sets up. There it is, just sitting for Far Jones. Another tester. Gallagher. And he got the mark. Courageous stuff from the New Zealand fullback. Some of the crowd felt he was moving, but Mr. Anderson in very good position.
I say again, it's the one to keep in the hands. Australia should be running it at them. There, Far Jones getting to him early. It was touch and go.
So New Zealand will have to call on all their reserves of stamina and experience. They are the world champions. They're regarded as one of the best sporting teams in the world also. And they're down on the scoreboard by 10. Cutler, 2 hands onto it. James to Walker, running straight. Got through the tackle of Fox. Miller's there. Australia trying to scurry it back. New Zealand have it. New Zealand getting the scrum feed.
Ryan Anderson keeping the lid on it there. The ball was available, but trapped by the weight of bodies. Advantage going to New Zealand, who are the side going forward before the ball stopped.
Gallagher's in at 5'8". Chipping ahead, straight to Leeds. It wasn't a good kick. He replies to space. And there's just a bit of panic about New Zealand's game at the moment. Fox, though, knows how to steady.
Australia are to use that ball more efficiently than that. Simply to kick for space against the All Blacks gives them options. And we don't like to see an All Black side with options because they are great.
Three-man line out from Australia. Frawley at the front. Knocked ahead there by Sean Fitzpatrick. Frawley certainly holding his own in this second international against Gary Wetton. But Cutler's done a lot of damage in the middle. Leeds. And a fine kick up the touchline, just short of halfway. Five minutes gone, second half. Mark Harthill down again. He had that knee strapped at half-time, but it looks as though he may be struggling now to continue.
Yes, I think so. Robbie Lawton a more than adequate replacement for Mark Hartill, who's played manfully in the last 2 Test matches. But Robbie Lawton showed in the game for Queensland against the All Blacks last weekend that he was the man to handle the tight head prop of Richard Lowe. And there certainly won't be any slackening off here as Rob Lawton, local boy, gets his first opportunity. And the applause of the crowd will tell you how welcome that is here.
Well, it's the first time since the Thornett brothers that 2 Australian brothers have played against the All Blacks. John and Dick did it. Walker did brilliantly. This is Williams. Again, turning New Zealand around. John Gallagher, the Wellington policeman. Kipper the Copper, they call him. Crowd in excess of 22,000, the biggest crowd in the history of Ballymore. It's a sellout.
It seems to get bigger, Gordon. I don't think that's possible, but I don't know whether they've opened the gates again, but there's more and more.
Well, they lost at Australia after going in. Shelford taken by Poitevin. Inspirational effort from him today. Schuster stepping, caught by James. It's Alan Wetton. New Zealand has had no continuity this afternoon with their rolling walls, but now Kerwin. Campese. Stanley, this is more like it, New Zealand. Poitevin's there for Australia. And New Zealand have it again. Fox, Schuster. Gallagher. It's 3-on-1. Campese and Williams. Campese there first. 5-metre scrum.
Straight race for the ball. Good defence by Australia. But New Zealand got things rolling. They got 4 phases together that time through the ability of Michael James at the breakdown. And it was that flow that allowed them to push deep into Australia's territory and apply the pressure. Campese, great work to get here. At last phase, the ball came. Australia had taken it in through Poitevin and the All Blacks had won the ball off him. It came wide. And they used the ball very efficiently down the side right. 3 men to cover him. And it was simply a race for the line. Campese had the inside gate and did it well, taking it over the line and landing on top of the ball, winding himself.
Well, there's still a long way to go. 10 metres out from the goal line. Shelford, he knocked on. Far Jones scurries into touch. And we haven't seen that on tour.
And that because of the strength of Australia's front 5. Just as he reached in to get the ball, Australia put on another short shove and the ball slithered off Shelford's hand back into the scrum. What a great effort from them today.
Magnificently committed Australian forward pack. Michael Jones at the back. New Zealand wedge him in. Fox again. Juggles. In trouble. Shelford's back there. Miller around his hips. Shelford makes it available. Blindside. Schuster. Gallagher couldn't hold on. Knock on New Zealand. Pressure defence. And the defence is organised.
Very good work by Australia. New Zealand just at 6s and 7s. They can't go over the top. They can't put the ball through the hands. And that's unusual for them.
Leads. And gaining just 10 metres, but valuable ones for his side. Andrew Leeds converted from inside centre to full-back by Paul Dalton, his Parramatta coach. And Rob Lawton's late grandfather, Tommy, captained Australia in 4 Test matches against New Zealand. Correction, 5 Test matches for 4 wins. Deans picking up the crumbs. Wrapped up by Far Jones. And a knock on by Australia. Nearly 10 minutes elapsed, second half. Australia 16-6.
And Brian Anderson going around to look at the other side of the scrum. Richard Lowe takes it very low.
Grant Fox to Stanley. He got away, a lovely pass to Kerwin. Now it's Schuster. Oh, barreled by Lloyd Walker. But Australia holding on here. New Zealand really bouncing the pressure back on the Aussies. There's only 4 men out here. Stanley coming through. Campese's there. Dangerous. Farr Jones saves the day. And a lovely left foot kick into touch. Thwarts a New Zealand try. Anxious moments.
And we talked about poise and composure, and the Australians did it with consummate ease. Cool under pressure. Leeds again showing out. Farr Jones doing the finishing work.
Well, one senses if Australia can withstand this onslaught from New Zealand.
And that delightful sound of Australian cheers and voices in the crowd.
Farr Jones. James using his 22. Not his best kick, but finding touch 35 metres out, and that certainly relieves the situation. New Zealand really starting to mount the pressure here.
And that a great line-out win by Australia. New Zealand's put in Australia's 22 and they pinched it off them.
Line-outs are 19-9 to Australia. Wetton got it at the front. Miller coming through. Schuster clapping on the speed to Stanley. Stanley running strongly. A great tackle from Leeds. Shelford. The All Blacks looking very dangerous here. Australia there in numbers. Gallagher. Kerwin supports, but Australia holds on.
There were gold jerseys everywhere. Great attack by the All Blacks. They've thrown absolutely everything into it. Outside centre James Grant came up a bit too quickly and allowed that gap to put Joe Stanley into it. But the defence pattern was up to the task. Here is Shelford taking the ball up off the inside pass and beautifully laid back by Buck Shelford. He did everything he possibly could. And here the Australians follow the ball across the line. They're not sucked in by Gallagher. They pull him to ground, ball and all. Great tackle of Andrew Leeds there on Joe Stanley. A bone cruncher, a try stopper.
So it's a line out now. Tommy Lawton to throw. It's only 5 metres from the goal line. And New Zealand hungry for a try. Cutlet got it to Rob Lawton. Another crucial line-out win. And Leeds again with a thumping kick upfield. Halfway line, John Kerwin. He's going for a run. Grant chases. Lovely pass to Gallagher. This is dangerous. Right. Well tackled by Stephen James. New Zealand can spread it now to the right, but there's no one out there. They go left. Shelford makes it available. Low. Alan Wetton there. Enormous pressure here from New Zealand. Deans couldn't hold on and scurried into touch.
What a fantastic game. Everyone to their feet watching that ball closely as it was just hooked into touch by the Australian defence. Frantic attack and desperate defence. What a great formula for a fantastic test match.
New Zealand has pounded the Australian line, sustained for the last 10 minutes. Australia's defence holds. Murray Pearce. Schuster. Stanley overlap. Terry Wright gets it. It had to come. And the All Blacks are back in contention.
Well, they did it against Queensland. They did it again that time against Australia. They used Kerwin coming back inside as the decoy. The cut pass, Miss Gallagher, straight out to Terry Wright on the far wing. He had room, he had miles of it. Australia's defence absolutely stretched. It was a great win in the line out there by Murray Pearce that started it. And this is good organised, constructive attack. Beautiful work by Stanley. The man didn't drift off Gallagher. He drifted off that man, Terry Wright, and he galloped over for a try.
He's third in Test match football. So a 6-point lead for Australia will be reduced to 4 if Fox can convert. Suddenly the match is transformed. 15 minutes gone, second half. Fox has kicked 1 from 2. Campisi chased hard, but to no avail. 4 points the difference.
Well, shades of Eden Park, 1978, the third Test match. Australia jumped to an early start and then were caught by the All Blacks, and then they powered our way again. Beautiful organised backline try. Look at the space in which the extra man was put. The decoy of Kluwen was all it needed to stop the Australian backline.
Well, Wayne Shelford and his New Zealand forward certainly paved the way for that one. And now they're getting their roll going. All Black power. Deans. Kick going straight up. Kerwin's there. He took it well. Alan Wetton. New Zealand clear it to Fox. Here they go again. Now Leeds to run back at New Zealand and kick downfield. John Gallagher on his goal line. And breathing space for Australia. Nearly 38 metres out from the goal line.
Well, there's 30 very tired little teddies out there on the paddock now. Digging deep, a very fit New Zealand outfit and an Australian outfit that's been untested over this term.
Gavin picks up the crumbs. And obstruction by Australia. Well, frustration. There was no one at home at halfback as Far Jones was caught in that maul. So just the errors creeping in, and New Zealand really out to take advantage. Fox will put this one up with his forward pack to follow. Leeds is outside the 22. It's been all New Zealand in the second half. Australia ahead, 16-6 at the break. Frawley at the front. McDowell trying to reap it away.
Australia need to drive this forward or they won't get the put into the scrum.
Expert control here from New Zealand. Alan Wetton has it, he's tackled. Far Jones. Here they go again. Gallagher's out wide. Stanley held on but still got it out. Kerwin. 3 Aussies there. Back it goes to Michael Jones. Now it's Murray Pearce on the 22. Australia's holding on again. New Zealand control it. Fox, Schuster, Stanley. Crunching tackle. Lloyd Walker, winded as he brought his opponent to ground.
Holding onto his wrist, Lloyd Walker. Can't move his shoulder. It was a great tackle. Look at this one. Came in, buried his shoulder deep in the belly of Joe Stanley.
Well, New Zealand has just exploded at the breakdown, and that's been the big difference in the second half. They have dominated possession. They now lead rucks and mauls by 20-12.
Well, how a game changes. 20-12 the rucks and maul. At half-time, 10-9 in Australia's favour. And therein lies a bit of difference. Their line-out performance as well in this second half to date has been better. They've been more efficient at getting and holding onto the ball.
Crucial scrum here for Australia. It holds. And New Zealand offside. Not staying bound, Michael Jones penalised.
Clear decision there, and a very good one by Brian Anderson. He said holding on is not bound on. And he was dead right.
Australia leading 16-12. It's tough going for them, though. That's the halfway line. Sean Fitzpatrick in his 15th international for New Zealand. Wetton to Deans. Oh, he made a mistake. Lawton comes through for Australia. They want this ruck ball but can't get it. Ah, yes, man held back. The referee missed it. Well, exactly the incident Australia was penalised. McIntyre held back, but just one of those things.
Well, there's still concern on the faces there of all the All Blacks on the bench. It's an unusual situation in which they find themselves.
Murray Pearce got it away. This is Shelford. Taken low by Stephen James. McDowell picks up. Crawley the tackler. Excellent continuity. Shelford's in it again. Inspirational stuff. Deans to Jones. 3 tackles he's beaten. And he didn't release the ball, but it's gone the other way.
Well, Mr. Anderson, I don't agree with you at all. Coming for the wrong side is after not releasing the ball on the ground by the tackle player. The penalty went the wrong way, and it's fairly easy for those to see on the box, but it was simple. Jones tackled, there was no support, and he held the ball close to him on the ground. Watch it here. He does a beautiful run upfield. He's out on his own and he knows he can't release it once he's tackled. He has a look. No one's there. Look, still holding onto the ground for seconds afterwards. And though Australia was there was no ruck or maul formed. Therefore, no penalty, New Zealand.
So the Australians are certainly hard done by there. And a critical penalty halfway through this second half could bring New Zealand to within 1 point. Cutler was entitled to pick the ball up in that tackle situation, especially as Jones did not release.
He was the only player there, Gordon. There was no ruck or maul. It needs a player from each side with the ball on the ground between them for the ruck to be formed, and you don't have to enter that one from behind when the ball's free and playable if Jones had to let it go.
Well, if New Zealand win this game, I think Michael Jones will be the hero and the villain. He appeared to make a double movement for New Zealand's first try. And now that last infringement leads to this attempted penalty goal by Fox. A lot of pressure on Fox. It's coming back. He really is a delightful goal kicker. And there's 1 point in it. 16-6 at half-time. New Zealand has scored 9 points to 0 in the second half.
A test of courage now for Australia. We said earlier it's all about possession and it's all about territory too. Look there on the top of the marquee in the background. The people are on the roof watching this. Australia, it only needs 1 point to win a test match. They've got the lead at the moment. And have they the courage to hold on and to go on with it?
Kick by Grant Fox. Another inspiring one, just 5 metres from halfway. But Australia has really had no possession in the second half. New Zealand has dominated at ruck and maul, and also one good line-out ball. Scruffing in the line-out. Barging by New Zealand. And Leeds coming up for a shot at goal. Penalties now favouring New Zealand by 7-6. Well, this has all the ingredients of one of the great test matches. Chris, you played in that magnificent game in 1978 at Eden Park. Greg Cornelson scored his 4 tries. It was your test debut, and Australia came back against the odds. They're leading by a point here, but it's going to be tough in the final quarter.
It certainly was. They didn't get a point to as close as this, and I don't believe the side we played in 78 was probably as good a side all round as this team is that Australia are playing. But that's what makes rugby, the wins against the odds.
Andrew Leeds has accumulated 8 points for Australia. He's kicked 3 out of 4, and he's done the job superbly so far. Again, he's got the distance. Magnifique! Australia by 4.
And we said in our intro that he was an unaccustomed kicker. Well, hasn't he shoved that one up somebody's nostril? What a great performance from this man Leeds today. He's led from the back, he's led with good, strong play, and he's kicked the points that have been necessary.
So Andrew Leeds has repeated his performance at Concord last year. But at Concord last year, New Zealand finished like a tornado in the last 15 minutes. The Australian backs need some ball. Cutler takes it beautifully. Miller to James. This is trouble. Back to Far Jones. They've made a mess of it. But
Indecision by James that time, wasn't it, Gordon? He could have gone over the top and down the line, but he chose that familiar jink we saw from Michael Liner last week and got into trouble.
Well, James is hobbling about like a wounded soldier at the moment.
Australia have used both of their reserves. No more reserves allowed.
Far Jones not throwing the ball in straight. Free kick here for New Zealand. Grant Fox will have a shot at field goal. Grant Fox has kicked 2 field goals in his test career. Let's just see what happens.
They can't advance until he taps the ball.
Beautiful kick. And it hit the upright. A smoocher. Here's Campese. And a big kick up the touchline. Oh, yes.
Well, this man is capable of it. Most would have put the ball down behind the line to take the 22 metres. But if this game is to be great, that's him, number 11 on his back. He's lifted his forwards with his inspirational kicking today.
Sean Fitzpatrick, 10-metre line, New Zealand. Gavin at the back. McDowell. New Zealand have done it well in the second half. Fox in 2 minds. Gallagher and Leeds. Brilliant. Wright's there, so is Wetton. New Zealand going forward. Here it comes. There's an overlap. Kerwin and Campese. He's around him. Cutler won't get him. Kerwin. He's gone into touch. He's gone into touch. Cutler, a former 400 metres hurdles champion at school, has pulled off a miraculous.
Andrew Leeds was caught in, but here Kerwin beats Campese. All ends up. He just ground him to a stop with his footwork, and it was Cutler there that does it, and well over the touchline. John Kerwin. Great work, Steve Cutler.
Will go down as one of the great tackles in Test match history.
No doubt at all. That is a try-saving tackle if you've ever seen one. A second rower across there in the second line, playing fullback and playing it to perfection.
Well, what do you say about this game?
Fantastic. Really I mean, some games are difficult to commentate, Gordon, you know that, and others just do it by themselves. And this one, it's fantastic. Both sides contributing with some bone-crunching defence and some even some mercurial attack. Joe Stanley down again. Australia's put into the line out. A crucial one for them.
15 minutes to go in the game. Australia leading by 4. 2 tries apiece. And it's only metres from the goal line.
Obstruction aplenty is what will be on for Australia here.
Tim Gavin got 2 hands to it. No try. Knock on by Wayne Shelford. Oh, so close. No, the scrum knocked on, the ball knocked on by Australia. What's happening here? So the referee got confused. Now he's going back and say, yes, it is your put in. Well, you'd have to say if New Zealand gets a tight head here, they'll almost certainly score. A lot of pressure mounting here from the New Zealand scrum. Rob Lawton and Richard Lowe. Great stuff from the scrum, and a big one from Leeds. The Australians hold on again.
And it's been that front 5 and the whole 8 that have done it. Great stuff by the Australian big men.
Chris, this game reminds me of Wellington in 1982. Australia lost the first test and they were called on to hold it in the last 15 minutes against the odds as New Zealand came back. They're in control again here. Jones and Fitzpatrick. Deans beats tackles. Back to Shelford. Deans again. Schuster. Lovely pass. Again, it's a good tackle from Australia. Try-saving tackle from Campese and Walker. Now he's onside, Ian Williams. Knocked back by Gallagher. Williams chases.
Williams held back by Richard Lowe.
Williams, a great tackle.
There was a definite penalty on over this side of the field, right in front of Brian Anderson, as Richard Lowe, the prop forward, held back that man, Ian Williams. It should have been advantage Australia, but wasn't.
Well, the crowd on the edge of their seats as you are watching this telecast. Australia leading 19-15. Can they hold on? 5 metres into New Zealand's half. Gavin got it. Australia sweep. New Zealand push them back. Here it comes. New Zealand with the scrum feed going forward.
Well, that's something Australia can't afford, to win the line out and to not go forward in the scrum. Robbie Lawton there sweeping and getting caught with the ball. Put into the advancing side, New Zealand.
Here they go short side to Kerwin. Campese and Miller and Gavin there. Jeff Miller, number 7, doing a Chris Roach here this afternoon.
Jeff Miller has been fantastic. Gordon, he's been all over the field forming that link. He's been winning the ball and getting at it, but they'll have to do it more. He needs help, and he needs help from those big second rowers.
10 minutes to go. New Zealand have it. Fox, Schuster, charging in at Stephen James. They set it up so well. Can Australia spoil? They're rocking it. New Zealand scrum feed. Jones caught on the ground that time. New Zealand with a deep alignment in the backs. Kerwin with space on the right. Here they go. Deans chipping ahead. Leeds is there. Kerwin confronts and takes him round the neck and puts him into touch. New Zealand throw into the line out. Well, we saw this.
How much pressure can Australia absorb? 4 points the difference. 9 minutes to go in a great test match. New Zealand have thrown it all at them, and Australia have withstood it and thrown it back. Here they go. Wetton. Deans to Fox. Schuster. Knocked down by Walker. Fox picks up again. Kerwin. Kerwin! This time! And gets another 5 metres infield. A successful Grant Fox conversion would put New Zealand in the lead. Well, heartbreak for the Australian players. They've done it all. There's been a double movement try. There's been a penalty go against them, but they've just fought back. But can they fight back again? That was clean cut. Good play by the All Blacks. First one way, then another. Thwarted on the left. They turned the ball back the open side through that man Fox. And there the tackle by Far Jones. He went wide and he came back inside Kerwin, shaping to put it down there, but brought it a bit closer for Grant Fox. Well, a galling moment there for the Australians. But the New Zealand juggernaut marches on. Scores are locked at 19 all. Fox can put the All Blacks in the lead. Grant Fox will never have a more important kick in his distinguished career. The Australians can't bear to look. A champion goal kicker, this man. The crowd will tell you many Kiwis in the Ariadne stand. Unbelievable. The pressure told. 19 all. Well, this is how it worked for New Zealand. They went one way. They were thwarted by what has been a superb backline defensive effort. Referee Anderson played the advantage of the knock-on from number 10 Lloyd Walker, and Fox was quick to seize upon it. Worked the ball wide into the hands of Kerwin, who stood up Far Jones and scores a great levelling try. John Kerwin now 21 tries in Test football, only 5 behind the world record holder David Campese. 19 all the score. Just 6 minutes to go. The Australian backs get some ball. Walker collared in the tackle by Jones. He was too slow that time. New Zealand take advantage. Schuster, Stanley. Again the chip through, worries Australia. And this is dangerous territory for Australia. They had the opportunity to carry it deep into New Zealand's territory. The ball should have gone into the corners because this last 5 minutes is about territory and possession within that territory. Exciting moments for the crowd. Everyone glued to their seats. A draw would mean New Zealand can't lose the series and they would retain the Bledisloe Cup. Cutler, a big line-out win. And offside New Zealand. Number 4 Murray Pearce. He was offside actually when he went across the line. I agree with you, Gordon, being the expert referee you are. Mr. Anderson didn't miss the subtlety of it either. Campese, huge kick, doesn't find touch. Terry Wright. Cutler. How was that? Australian rules fashion. Gary Wetton was offside, number 5, most definitely. All inside the 10 metres. He was within 10 metres from Steve Cutler, and Mr. Anderson, you have heard. Gary Wetton was close to Steve Cutler when that ball dropped from that kick from Terry Wright. Yes, you have to retire outside the 10 metres. Wetton made no attempt. Well, New Zealand have it. Alan Wetton, halfway line, Fox, Schuster,
Schuster, a wall of gold jerseys. Jones in there to pick it up to Deans. Trouble here. Gallagher. Kerwin lost ahead. Far Jones. No advantage for Australia. 19 all, 3 minutes to go. Walker. Grant well tackled, lined up, and here's Williams. Good play from him, supporting Grant, and a great tackle by Joe Stanley.
Oh yes, good defence by the New Zealand backs. Australia unusually looking to run it there in their 22. They had a little bit of pressure on them. It was a high pass to James Grant, who put him under terrible pressure, but great composure and let it go to Williams.
Well, Williams has been one of Australia's best players this afternoon. He's bobbed up everywhere. 2.5 minutes to go. 19 all. And Australia have it. James. Cut out now to Grant. Campese chasing hard. Gallagher. Gallagher caught. Australia needs it in numbers. 25 metres out. Last chance here for the Aussies.
This is the territory for Australia to attack in. The ball must be kept in the hands, and it must be kept within this goal-kicking range, because if there is a penalty to come, it could be a match winner.
New Zealand has scored
two-handed catching at the top of the line out.
New Zealand has scored 13 points to 3 in the second half. Cutler. Far Jones, brilliant clearance to James. He's caught from behind. Australia desperately want this ball. New Zealand trying to push Poitevin back.
Australia must win this one or they'll lose the put into the scrum.
Dean's kicked. Oh, look at the bounce for Kerwin. Campese. Desperate tackle. Leeds is there. It's all happening here at Ballymore. Quick throw from New Zealand. Gavin had it. Picked up by Australia.
Settle now, Australia, and this one back and out.
Australia going forward that time. Murray Pearce standing at halfback for Australia.
They advanced from the quick line out that the New Zealanders threw into. They were asking for the attacking side put in. Good decision by Anderson, a critical one for Australia.
Critical scrum. Penalty to Australia. Taking the scrum down against Richard Lowe. 19 all, 1 minute to go. So the hoodoo at Ballymore looks like continuing unless Australia can snatch it in the dying seconds. About 35 seconds remaining. Here in Brisbane in 1974 we had a 16-all draw. There have been only 4 draws in the 85-match history of Australia-New Zealand Test matches. Time almost up on the clock. 19 all, last chance for both sides. Fox. Kerwin in the line. Lovely pass to Wright. Caught by Grant. Campese into touch. Time almost up. The hoodoo to go any second. This will be the last line out. It's 19 all. That's it. The match is all over. It's almost like an anticlimax after 80 minutes of spectacular football from both sides. A great second half comeback by New Zealand. Down by 16 points to 6. They ran in 2 tries by Terry Wright and John Kerwin. Australia can still draw the series. New Zealand can't lose it now, having won the first test by 32-7. New Zealand scoring 3 tries to 2. Plenty of incidents in that game that will be talked about for a long time. But I think the one that stands out in my memory was the tackle by Steve Cutler on John Kirwan, which saved a certain try. The big second rower somehow getting across in cover in the second half, which would have levelled the scores. Standing ovation from the crowd, two fantastic sides. It's been a fantastic comeback also by this Australian team after being whipped 32-7 in the first test, and they'd probably be disappointed that they didn't take victory here this afternoon. Well, Chris Handy's with Nick Farr-Jones, the Australian skipper, and let's go down to Chris now.
Well, Nick Farr-Jones, a fantastic effort by the Aussies. Are you disappointed you didn't win it?
Well, of course we're disappointed we can't win the series. We can only tie it. But yeah, I'm very proud of the way the guys held on in that second half. We didn't get nearly as much possession as we did in the first. You know, the fellas got a little tired towards the end, and we didn't have the pack going as 8. They played fantastic football, but we just didn't quite get that second phase ball that we did in the first half where we could put pressure on the New Zealanders.
It was difficult during the week, not only because of the task in front of you, but also because of injuries, withdrawals and also sickness. How did the team, what did you do to galvanise the team for the effort out there today?
Well, you know, I mean, that was difficult, but at the same time New Zealand had their problems with injuries up at Toowoomba. You know, the team has got great spirit. I mean, I think you saw that in the first test, even though it was fairly convincing. We made mistakes and got punished for them in the first test. Today we didn't make those mistakes, and the team's got great spirit. You saw from that defence in the second half, it was just absolutely fantastic, some of it.
The match in Sydney, of course, although it's not the series decider because they've drawn here, they've won one and drawn one, so they'll return with the Bledisloe Cup to New Zealand. But, you know, the spirit showed there today. Certainly the match in Sydney will be a crackerjack one.
Well, I hope so, and I hope the crowd gets right behind us out there. The Queensland crowd certainly got behind the Aussie team, and it was fantastic. And, yeah, we're looking forward to it, and hopefully we can just keep the pressure on them in the second half a bit more.
Well, congratulations and all the best for Sydney.
Thanks, Chris.
So this capacity crowd going home, feeling they've had a great afternoon's entertainment. We trust you've really enjoyed this telecast, because it really was a thrill a minute. And Australia at half-time looking as though they would go on and record their first ever win at Ballymore. But as we told you, it's only the 5th draw between Australia and New Zealand in their test match history over 85 test matches. And New Zealand really coming back in the second half through their magnificent forward pack. They really dominated at the breakdown after it was 10-9 the Rucks and Mauls to New Zealand at half-time. They went on to take that area by 24-14 in the second half, and they came back very well in the line-outs as well. Let's look at the try that started the New Zealand comeback in the second half. It was scored by Terry Wright. The throw to the middle of the line-out. Murray Pearce did well. Deans cleaned up a lot of untidy ball, and then quick hands along the line, and Wright was put into space as Kirwan came in as the decoy. Gallagher also used as a decoy, and Wright over for his 5th test drive. And then we saw a try by John Kirwan to give New Zealand their 3rd. New Zealand scoring 3 tries to 2, and in the end it was 19 all, and New Zealand got there through this last one by John Kirwan. Deans again clearing as New Zealand went left. Deans and Grant Fox going in at halfback, and John Kirwan beating David Campese. All ends, or Nick Farr-Jones, all ends up here. And this was the try that saw New Zealand draw level. Fortunately for Australia, Grant Fox missed the conversion. That's all from Ballymore. Back to Charles Slade.
Well, Gordon Bray, what can you say? Those of us here at ABC TV have had the pleasure of bringing you 2 fantastic Australian matches in less than 72 hours. The Wallabies' courageous draw against the mighty All Blacks this afternoon, hard on the heels of the Socceroos' sizzling triumph over